So I just saw an interview with Edgar Berlanga. It was from the guy from Showtime. I believe his name is Brian Custer. It was an interesting video. I mean, what can you say? This kid Edgar, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's smart. He's saying most of the right things, but there were a couple of things that were slightly disconcerting. First of all, he had on a Versace robe, and immediately that brings to mind the old phrase that says, it's hard to wake up early when you're sleeping in silk pajamas, meaning that the reason why fighters fight to begin with is because they're hungry and because they're looking to make it. They're looking to be wealthy. And when you already have the silk pajamas, what's your motivation? You've already made it. Now, obviously, you can look at a guy like Floyd Mayweather to disprove that theory, but I mean, Mayweather is a once in a lifetime anomaly. He could disprove a lot of theories. Mayweather is undersized for 147, and he was beating guys at 154. He's probably been punched 8 or 10 times in his face solidly in his entire career. And like I've said before, you've seen guys get punched 8 or 10 times within one round solidly in their face. Never mind a fight or an entire career. It's just, so Floyd is probably not the best example. He's definitely the exception to that rule and to many rules. But the rule, or the majority of individuals, very likely lose something the moment they're driving the Lamborghini, the moment they're driving they're sleeping, like I said, with the silk pajamas, or they have the $3-4 million mansion. Now, I also think there's something to be said for this in terms of social media, because back in the days, you could sort of make your money and say, okay, I don't care, and just sort of fade into the sunset, where now there's so much pressure on you because of your brand on social media that it's probably a bit different. Guys very likely feel a lot more pressure now because of their huge followings to maintain it, to not lose it. And you can only imagine what it would be like for any fighter, but especially for a guy like Edgar Berlanga, who's so highly touted, to go from getting so much adoration from fans on one day, and then the next day, God forbid, you get knocked out or you lose, as he stated in the video, and then everybody turns their back on you. That's got to be a difficult thing. Also, guys, if you hear me sniffling, it's just because I just got a COVID test done. It's not, because I'm sick. It's just that they, for anyone who's had it done, they stick that thing in that little swab in your nose. It's just like, could really screw you up. But so yeah, Edgar says, he says he wants to fight all the top contenders: Benavidez, Canelo, Caleb Plant. And I think he's right. I don't think 2021 is the right time to fight those guys. I think 2022 is, I think Top Rank is right. 2022 is probably the time to take on at least one of those guys and get another 3 or 4 fights in, if not 5 beforehand. I think so, because regardless of him being 24 and him already having 16 fights, if you're disposing of these guys in one round, you're not developing the necessary experience to face one of these top guys who are almost inevitably going to take you, perhaps a distance, if not defeat you or what have you. So now you may say, well, he spars, and I'm sure he spars 12, 15 rounds, and he's had longer fights in the past, sure, but I don't think that's anything like when you're actually a professional and you have all those juices pumping and the big fight atmosphere. So yeah, but the one thing that I notice is that although he's saying he wants to fight those guys, he doesn't seem particularly interested in fighting one of them, and that guy is David Benavidez. Now, I just want to state for the record that David Benavidez is my favorite fighter. I mean, there's just no one else who comes close. The only thing I could see David Benavidez do a little bit better is maybe work out a little bit more. I don't know. When I look at his physique, it sort of reminds me of David Hasselhoff from Baywatch. And it's not the sort of like athletic physique, and you get the sense like, dude, like do some push-ups, do some, I don't know. But then again, it's possible that he doesn't have that physique that's cut out for that anyway. The other thing is, it appears that David has gotten distracted at certain points during his career, and with weight or what have you. But I love David Benavidez. Watching him is just the way he puts his combinations together and his never say no attitude. He's one of those guys. So many guys, especially in this sport, say I'm gonna do this and that. David Benavidez will do it. He's not like the Canelos, and he will come. He's coming. You know exactly what you're gonna get. I'm gonna be in your face. I'm willing to take yours to give you mine, and that's all you can ask for from a boxer. Now, as I said, Edgar Berlanga does not seem particularly interested in taking on David Benavidez. Now, myself, admittedly, being a Puerto Rican, I love Edgar Berlanga, right? Because patriotism, tribalism, however you want to refer to it. And I would love nothing more for him to do well. And that being the case, I don't think it's a good idea for him to take on David Benavidez, especially not now. I mean, as a boxing observer, yeah, you'd like to see it. But even if I pull myself back from my nationality or anything else, it's not a good idea for him now because he's not ready. And I would let David Benavidez take on a Canelo or take on a Plant before, and let him get rattled a little bit, or perhaps defeated it, and then take him on. Now, excuse me, this COVID test, man. So now this is the thing. Excuse me. So if Benavidez, by the way, I firmly believe that Benavidez will do away with Plant and Canelo. And I believe that Plant, Benavidez, and also Edgar Berlanga will all beat Canelo. I'm not a big Canelo guy at all. I think he chooses his opponents very wisely. I think for him it's money before fans. And that's not to be disrespectful to him. That's just honestly the way I see it. And I think he's done that for the majority of his career. Now, and to his credit, it's gotten him where he's at now. But back to Edgar Berlanga. I do not believe that Edgar Berlanga is particularly interested in engaging with David Benavidez. And although it's smart, it's also disconcerting. Because the most successful fighters are the ones that they're also, in other words, what this shows is a certain lack of belief in himself. Now, Edgar Berlanga may hear this and say, dude, you misunderstood the interview. I absolutely am ready. It's just that Top Rank is not going to allow me to. And that may be the case, right? That you absolutely are ready, but that the Top Rank is not going to allow me to do it yet. That I don't agree with, because as a fighter, if and when you put your foot down, the buck stops with you at any and every point during your career, especially when you have the amount of sway and pull that you do at this point. If you say, I want Canelo next, I want Plant next, or I want whoever next, they will give you that fight. And once again, I don't believe you should take on any of these guys next. However, if you did want it, it would be there for you. But besides that, like I said, I think Edgar Berlanga is a good kid. I think he's good for the sport. I think he's going to continue to do well. And I guess we'll see what's to come here in the near future.
Yeah, I'll give you my 2 cents. And if you're not too sensitive, you'll be able to sense how much sense I actually make. I'm actually great.